Welcome to December's Supporting Productivity Mastermind. I'm super excited about this topic because it's the emergency plan. It's what happens when the agent can't work for a day or 2 weeks or a month or indefinitely. It's been a long time coming. I've been with our team for almost 4 years, and the first year and a half, it was one of those of if Tulio doesn't answer his phone, I don't know if I know what's happening in the next week. I've got to have these decisions made. I have to have these processes written down. So this plan that I'm about to kind of teach, we still work on ours. It's a living document. We kind of update it and renew it and work through it every single time. We do it about twice a year that we look at it and update it. But it's a lot of getting what's in the agent's brains and the team's brains and the operations brains down on paper so that somebody else can do your business for you in an instance in which you can't. So I have a PowerPoint that we're going to kind of walk through just to kind of keep me on task because there's a lot of stuff to cover. I dove into the system, and because this is booked through Calendly, you guys will get an email if you've registered and you're attending. You'll get an email immediately after the mastermind is finished, and it will contain my emergency plan checklist. So we're going to go over some like bullet point component items. But that is a 4-page document that breaks each of those component items down into much smaller and more detailed tasks. I just didn't need to put all that text on a PowerPoint slide for you guys to read. So that will be coming out to help you build your plan and your binder. So I am going to share the PowerPoint. Make sure I'm clicking on the right one. There we go. So this conversation is the emergency plan. What to do if your real estate business is in crisis. Basically, if something happens to you as the agent, as the lead operations personnel, as the team owner or whatnot, you kind of have to, people have to know what happens next. So our team refers to it as the what happens if I'm hit by a bus tomorrow plan. So that's why there's a picture of the bus there. I tried to find a Denver bus because that's the one we always joke is going to gun one of our agents down, but I couldn't find a Denver bus. So I think that one is the Navy Piers, probably Chicago. There's a couple of Navy Piers. But first and foremost, why is it? There it goes. Having a plan matters. Why does having a plan matter? I'm sure all of you are very well versed that real estate is unpredictable. In fact, the only thing predictable is the fact that it is unpredictable. You'll also encounter that every single agent has their own set of working hours. Some don't work weekends, some are open 24/7, some respond more frequently in the afternoon, some more in the morning. If you don't have a plan and somebody doesn't know how you operate, it's a lot harder for them to find standard and structure and being able to carry out your business in the chaos. A lot of the agents, especially a lot of the ones that I have been interacting with through this mastermind, are solo agents or have very minimal leverage. And so if you are a solo agent and you are the one that has an emergency, how is your business running? And that's kind of why we're talking about what the considerations need to be. Emergencies can happen professionally. Emergencies can happen personally. Both of them will impact your client's level of service. So having something on the books to combat those instances is always a good backup plan. And basically, disruptions require operational continuity. If the entire way you do business is in your head and something happens to you and your head is no longer accessible, even if just for the day, because you're out of connectivity, how is anything happening? So we have to get it out of the head and onto the paper. Today's goal is to kind of give you some tools, to give you that checklist, to kind of jog some inspiration on what could be part of your plan. And so that's what we're going to end up walking through now. So every business has inherent risk. You guys are all entrepreneurs. You take on all of that risk as being the business owners and being the agents. But real estate's a unique field. So we all know it's commission-based. If you're not working, there's not money coming in. So we want to make sure that we keep that part of the pipeline, that part of the flow working. How many of you have clients who expect you to respond rapidly or at least within the same day, who aren't very patient when you don't respond? And then how many have limited or no additional staff? It's you, yourself, and I, and you're doing all of it yourself. Yeah, I'm seeing a couple of hands there. So how many of you know how to run your business, but it's all in your head? It's never been written down, communicated to anybody else, or shared. Yep. That's a big one too. And then who has seen that small disruptions, even like missing a day of lead gen, can cause big implications in your pipeline or big gaps a couple of months down the road, that the small disruptions cause large impacts. Does anybody ever feel that? So that's why we have the emergency plan. Scenarios that are great for an emergency plan creation is long-term illnesses, injuries, surgeries, family crisis. You are the caregiver. You've got to go take care of somebody else, and so you are indisposed. Or even just natural disasters, things like weather-related events or house fires or car accidents, just where you have to take a step back, and obviously your business is not your top priority in that moment. So we've got a small group. It's participation time. You know me, you've been to my mastermind, you know I make you participate. What is your primary concern if you were gonna basically have to step away from your business for 2 weeks or more? What is your number one thing that you worry about or are concerned about or want to make sure it gets handled and covered? And I'm going to make you guys come off of mute and talk to me about it. So who wants to go first? Okay, go for it, Jeannie. Oh, nope. I can't hear you. I can see you talking, but I can't hear you. I understand that. It's the extra layer speaker button.
Sorry.
There we go.
That's better. Okay, wonderful. I worry about taking care of my clients because I build a business actually by accident, by referral and repeat. Like, because people, when I first got in the business, say, oh, well, I have a referral business. Like, yeah, okay, so that's nice. But what I realized is after 20 years, you work really hard, that becomes who keeps you busy, and you don't ever want to disappoint them. So someone who can take care of them, or at least get them to, like, if we had a plan of who else could back me up and make sure that they have everything covered that they need. So they still stay in my circle and get the same kind of care that I would give them.
Okay, so that's sounds like you put emphasis on your client care and your client touches and the continuity in making sure that your clients are still getting what they expect to get from you by being their clients. Okay.
Yes. That's summed up so much better.
That's okay. I have a look fancy words. I've also been on ChatGPT for the last 2 weeks designing the worksheet that goes with this. And so, yeah, might as well have been in a thesaurus for how many words have come out. Does anybody else want to talk about what their primary concern is if they were to have to step away from business? What the number one thing they want to make sure happens?
I am a solo agent, so I didn't really think about that side. So when you go in a vacation and you have showing or whatever, you just find help from the office. So, but what I do though is I use command a lot, and whenever I call, I put note, so anyone who came after me can see what is going on with my client and can call them and be up to date.
Okay, so you put emphasis on making sure that there is documentation so that your clients at whatever stage they are in can be serviced by somebody else if that need arises.
Without even talking to me, you can. Mainly about DT2 or if you want to call the database. I'm still working on, but it is pretty good so far.
I love the DTD2 and having an organized database. That is my number one passion project. Making sure that happens when there's an absence is my number 2 passion project, which is why we're talking about it today. Reagan or Mandy, do you want to chime in, or is it pretty much similar to Jeannie and is it Marcel? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, same thing. When I go on vacation, it's very difficult because I don't really have another person. I don't have a go-to person. I don't know how to find a go-to person. I guess that would be an addition to what everybody else said to make sure everyone's well taken care of. I don't have a backup person. I don't even know who I would call.
Okay, so your number one concern would be to develop your who, your trusted partners, and figure out who your support network would be in order to have somebody actually enact the emergency plan that you took all the time to put down on paper.
Yeah.
And then Mandy, do you have anything to add, or pretty much the same as everybody else?
Oh, we've actually kind of worked on an emergency plan just because my agent likes to go on vacation and he's oftentimes in Mexico. So it's difficult for me to get a hold of him. Luckily for us as a team, I'm also licensed in the same states that he is. So that kind of allows me to just pick up his workload while he's gone, and we work really well together to make sure that we have the same kind of client relationships. So that's been something we've been working on as a team.
Okay. Since you've already kind of waded into this landscape and have been working on the plan, do you have a roadblock or a hurdle right now, or what your number one thing that needs some improvement on that you can share? That you're a little bit further down the path?
I think our biggest improvement piece would be just having more than me, because we do 100+ transactions a year between the two of us, and so it makes it crazy to say the least. If I have to pick up his 10 closings that he has for the month or whatever like that on top of my own. So we are actively looking into what's next for us and who our next leverage piece is.
Okay, that's finding that capacity talent to fill that hole. So I understand that. Okay, so then we're going to move on to components of the emergency plan. And this is what I'm talking about. This, though, what you're seeing on the screen is a very top-down 1,000-foot overview. Like I said, you'll get a PDF that has all of these same sections, but then so obviously the section 1 is a business continuity plan. How do you keep your business rolling along without you? And so we're going to talk about notification protocols. The checklist that I will send you will actually have detailed information under notification protocols that will mirror what we talk about verbally out loud in the thing. So you take notes, but don't rush to be like, I need to have every single word memorized. There will be a replay, there will be the checklist, everything like that. But as far as business continuity procedures, kind of highlighted 4 things that you need to have consideration on. Everybody's how they do these pieces is going to be slightly different, but it's kind of overarching themes that should be considered if you have to have somebody step in to do business for you. So first and foremost is your notification protocols. If something happens to you, who in your personal life is supposed to notify your professional life, or who in your professional life is supposed to notify your personal life? So is your spouse supposed to call your office and let them know what's going on? If something happens to you at work, is your office supposed to notify your spouse? And very basically, do you have an emergency contact list? And of who's supposed to call who, or who's supposed to know what's going on? And do your emergency contacts know they are your emergency contacts? And the big thing we found when we were kind of filling this out is you are the central hub of all of these people. And so if they don't know each other or they don't have a relationship, if your spouse doesn't know the name of your office manager or your broker and vice versa, you might want to put on your sheet what the relationship is of that person to you. So when somebody's trying to make a phone call, they're not calling somebody thinking it's your spouse or your partner or your next of kin or your mother, and then they're actually calling, your next door neighbor or your best friend. So that's kind of the step 1 of the notification protocols. But there is also, I would highly recommend creating a vacation responder template. It's very, very basic. That way, if something happens to you, somebody can go in and immediately turn on your vacation responder in your email. That way, if somebody needs something, they already know who the next point of contact is. So if you've got open transactions and titles trying to get you, or your client's trying to get a hold of you, the last thing you want is, if you're in an emergency situation, your cell phone blowing up and people having to field the incoming business in your cell phone while they're also trying to make sure that you are getting the care that you need. So turning on that, or turning on the do not disturb, or turning on the text message responders, just kind of setting up some basic language of, okay, I'm out of contact right now. This is who you can contact if you have this issue. So you can set those templates up to be turned on for you in the event of emergency. And then when you make a decision on who is required to notify who, tell them, let them know. Make sure they understand. It's like, hey, if this happens to me and you get a call, then I need you, you're responsible. I'm a military spouse. And so back before the advent of a lot of technology and tech and very first couple of deployments, it's a call tree. Like, this person is responsible for calling these 4 people. These people are responsible for calling these 4 people. So, delegate who's supposed to notify who, and then let them know that they're supposed to notify them and make sure they have the contact information and so forth. So that's notification. That's the very first thing that happens. Is we're talking the first hour to 2 hours to kind of get that settled. Next is secure and accessible information. Your passwords should not only live in your computer or only live in your brain. They should be somewhere so that somebody can come behind you and access your most important stuff. Like even so much, it's super simple. A lot of people overlook it. If you've ever worked with the senior community, I'm sure it's probably top of mind. But the PIN code to open people's phones, that's a big one. If your whole life is in your phone and nobody but you knows the PIN code and you're having an emergency, how is anybody going to get to anything? So having that written down or shared with a trusted partner is kind of step 1. Having passwords for things like your CRM, your e-contracting platform, your MLS, anything that they're going to need to do very basic level business management for you and transaction management and client management. Those passwords need to be somewhere stored. There are services like LastPass or one word that will do that. And then you don't even have to give them the password. You can just give them access, but people need to be able to get into stuff for you. And you need to be able to have those trusted partners, if that's what you choose to have them do, have that information. So you'll need those passwords, the lock screen, even your license information. Who knows your license number? That's a good thing to have written down somewhere. Like, well, no, who but you? That's the way I should have phrased it. Who but you knows your license number? If they're having to do something for you on your behalf, or they're trying to track down your compliance, or they're trying to work with your brokerage, or is your license number written down anywhere? It's amazing how many times that stuff gets pre-populated, but if you don't know it or you don't share it and it comes up, it's a necessary thing that you might need to know. The other one is an operations roadmap. This is just a 1-page document, and it's basically, what is your CRM? What is your contract platform? What if you have a third-party email marketing? What do you use? Do you use MailChimp? Do you use Flowdesk? Do you use Constant Contact? If this is not somebody who works with you day in and day out right next to you, and they're coming in to help backfill what you're doing, they need to know where to go. If your command is your CRM, they don't want to be looking for follow-up boss, or vice versa. So a roadmap that considers those key elements, as far as like what MLSs that you have access to, because you might have active listings in those MLSs, or you might have portals in those MLSs. So like what MLSs are you party to? Where we are, our team is in 3, just because of our geographical area. So that do you track your transactions outside of your CRM? Do you have a tracker? Do you have a list of what's open, what's active, what's coming, what's going on? Just if you've got that, they need to know where it is or how to find it. Lead generation support. If you have third-party leads or Facebook ads or paid ads or expired lists, if there's somebody supposed to be monitoring any movement in incoming leads, they need to know where you keep your leads. So a little note of all of the different third-party sources if you have leads, or if they're connected and they come through your CRM, just a note of, hey, these are coming in, they're on a distribution, just little details. And then you don't necessarily have to give them access, but if you are very prevalent on your social media, knowing which social media platforms you have would be good. Just kind of like, hey, I'm on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, or here's my YouTube or whatever it is. If it's integral to your business, you kind of need to have somebody that knows that it exists and that it is there, especially if it needs to be monitored. And then again, like I said, your email marketing, if you do third-party email marketing, or if you've got stuff that they interact with that's going to keep your lead gen and your client touches rolling, they need to know it exists. So that's kind of secure and accessible information. So then how to manage your active business. These are your current clients and your transactions and things like that. So again, a list of your in-progress transactions. Do you work with a transaction coordinator? Does the transaction coordinator have all of your deadlines? If somebody were to step in, literally just like, what is open? Where are we at? What's working on them? Your transaction coordinator should have access, but if you work with a transaction coordinator, make sure that they're on the notification protocol. Make sure that they know who to get stuff to or who to talk to as a point of contact if you're not going to be the point of contact for open transactions. Do you have coming soon listings? Do you have active listings? Do you have things in showing time that there's going to be scheduling showings that you have to approve or not approve? Or do you need to be communicating updates to your clients and your listings that somebody else is going to have to take? So just kind of having a written plan of, this is how I track what's open and what's active in my business, so that other people can kind of look at it. They're not going to do all the bits and pieces your way, but they kind of need to know what the transactions are, or the clients are, or who's got assigned agency, who are you supposed to show houses to, and so that they can start delegating them and reassigning them per your management plan, your emergency plan. And then your MLS management, do they need to go in and change? If something closes, do they need to go in and close it out on the MLS? If something expires, or if something is supposed to be going live and it's not going to be going live, or say you had an open house and now you don't have an open house, if there any maintenance that's happening on the MLS that's going to keep you in compliance, that they're going to need to do on your behalf. A quick synopsis of what your primary CRM and how it's structured. So if you do DTD2, then you're like, okay, yes, I have a tag for that, or I use tasks instead of tags, or this is how you find prospective clients, or I have past clients labeled this way. Just a very basic breakdown. That way, if somebody's trying to find what's going on in your database, they understand how you have your database structured. And then your prospective clients should have information in there. That way they can at least reach out and let them know what happened, or let them know that they're going to be transferred to, they're going to be a showing agent, or just be another agent, or there's going to be, hey, we're going to take a pause for 7 days. Is there anything you need immediately that's going on? Or this is the update for your transaction. So a clear record of where they're at, their contact information, where they're at in the process, and then if you have a touch point scheduled going out to them, kind of what the next level of the touch point should be. And then again, that paid lead management. If you have leads coming in, just let them know where those leads are coming in, so they don't get dropped off into nowhere or never get contacted, or you don't know what's coming into your pipeline. And then this is a little bit more applicable to those that have teams or those that have leverage. If you are purely 100% a solo agent, it's something you should consider if you do pick up leverage. But managing your team or managing your leverage while you're gone is a delegation of responsibilities. Who's supposed to do what when? So if you have a transaction coordinator, but you also have an admin, or if you have a VA that does marketing, but you also have this person that's going to step in for the agent capacities, telling them what they're responsible for, so that they don't cross lanes, or they don't, like, well, I thought I was doing this, and then you have two people doing one thing and nobody doing the other thing, is clear delegation of tasks. And then communication. How are they supposed to communicate with you while you're out? Do you have a group chat? Do you do WhatsApp? Do you have a Slack channel? Do you want it all by email so that it's written down? but how is your team and your leverage supposed to communicate with you? Are they supposed to send daily updates? Are they supposed to send weekly updates? Are they supposed to only talk by phone call? What do you want that to look like so that that expectation is set before there is a crisis? And then the last thing, which is always the end goal, always pie in the sky, definitely not where you start with the emergency plan. But if you can get it systematized and standardized, a lot of what we're talking about is a workflow or a standard operating procedure. So if you have how the business is supposed to be run and it's written down in a standard operating procedure, then you just need to provide that standard operating procedure to the person who will be doing that job. Kind of like on the fly, quick on the job training. But if you have those, you need to be able to have them in your binder or have them digitally or have a link to them so that they can pick up the slack and follow your procedures and policies if you've already got them in place. So that's kind of keeping your business moving. That's keeping the wheel turning on that. Any questions about things we talked about? Anything that I didn't mention that kind of came to mind that would fall under that, or do you have hurdles or things that brings up, or is there something that you do well? It's kind of the interactive portion for section 1. And no, it's so good. I know it's a lot. We're kind of drinking from a fire hose. I'm hoping a lot of this will just be oh yeah, I need to think about that. Oh yeah, I need to do that. And then it's identifying the holes, because the action plan at the end of this, the homework I'm going to give you guys to go out and start building your binder, start building your emergency plan. And it will always be a document that requires revisions and updates and improvements, but you have to start somewhere. Putting something on paper is better than having nothing on paper moving forward. So that's section 1. We're going to move on to section 2. And that's client communication. This is what Reagan and Jeannie were talking about when we started. Their number 1 concern is client communication. So what I find is the biggest piece of client communication is designating the point of contact. Our team has 5 agents and 3 operation personnel. And so for every person on our team, if they were to have to step back and we're no longer going to be doing their duties for an indefinite amount of time, there is a different point of contact designation. If our rainmaker is incapacitated, then the point of contact, basically all of the stuff that he handles runs through me. And then I figure out if it's something that needs operational support, which we will tackle, or if it's something that needs an agent. Like, do we need to pick up showings? Do we need to pick up contract writing? Do we need somebody to sit on the closing? And then I will delegate out who's doing that task. But if it's my rainmaker that goes out, then I become the point of contact. If it's my marketing admin that goes out, I am technically like I get notified, but I'm not the point of contact to make the marketing run. I am not the marketing brain. That gets moved over to our cyber backer, who picks up because she has much more understanding of where we're at in the marketing tasks. But again, if our lead buyer agent goes out, then we're not going to give our listing agents the buyer agent contracts. We're going to get our buyer agents to backfill our buyer agents. So knowing who the point of contact is for each person. So designate that person. Like, we do everything in writing. That way it's well known. It's part of our SOPs. It's like, if this person's out, this is the next person in charge. Is our hierarchy. So doing that, and then ensuring whoever your designated point of contact has all of the email and phone access. Do they know your number? Can they have your number forwarded to them? Can they have your email forwarded to them? Can they get into your communication platforms to communicate on your behalf? They don't necessarily have to log in as you into the CRM, but can they get into the CRM and see what's coming in? Because if somebody reaches out to you and they can't monitor that communication, then that communication is not happening with that client. So you want to make sure that they have some way to access or some way to move things forward, or some way to at least say, hey, send it to me instead of sending it to them for the foreseeable future. So then current client continuity. These are people you have agencies with, you have working relationships with. These are your clients. And so I would highly suggest that you prepare a couple of template messages. Kind of like what we talked about, that vacation responder that you can put on. Script now when you are not chaotic and in crisis, how you would want your clients notified if you were not available for more than a day. It's like, what do you want that to look like? And then you can give it to your designated point of contact to send out to your clients if you are incapacitated. It's like, okay, that's the first contact point. It's like, hey, this is what's going on. If you need anything, this is who you contact. We'll let you know as soon as she's back. You're all good, all taken care of. But if you are the one crafting that template message, it's coming in your voice, it's staying in your authenticity. But having it ahead of time rather than when, you have a broken leg or your house is flooded or all those other kinds of stuff, you don't want to be creating that in chaos. You want to be creating that when you're centered and came in, all the words that are coming to mind is do a good job in it. How basic that English is. So tell those kind of template messages. Try and brainstorm how frequently you would want them contacted. So if you're contacting these people once a month, then is your goal for them to stay on that once a month touch? If you're talking to your clients once a week, is it something that needs to stay once a week, or is it something that can go to every 2 weeks? But have a roadmap for, I talk to these clients this frequently. Does that need to stay that way? Or what is my expectation of maintaining that client communication? It will be different. Your buyers that are actively looking at showings may have a higher frequency of communication than, say, your buyers that aren't quite there yet or still in the approval process or what. If you've got listings, if you're sending a weekly update, it might not be able to be weekly. It might have to be every other week, or, just kind of get a feel for what that looks like. And then write it down as like, this is my expectation. This is what we're shooting for. You might not hit that, but at least they know what to expect, and they're not operating in a no context black hole. So client follow-ups. If your follow-up is automated, if they're on a smart plan or they're on a touch or they're on a newsletter drip, you don't have to write down what every single person in your database is on. But if you're like, hey, I do generally send out a monthly newsletter and it should be going to a portion of my database, letting them know that touch is your backfill, the person who's helping you execute your emergency plan, know that touch is kind of scheduled. It's like, okay, they're still going to get the newsletter, or they're still going to get this. These are the ones I was doing manually. These are the ones that will have to be taken over, that kind of stuff. So what your touch plan is, what your follow-up plan is, kind of how you've been handling that, so that they have options moving forward. Or you can go the super, super easy way. We have a smart plan. I don't think it's been looked at. Actually, probably should go in and look at it. But we have a smart plan that is generic enough that it doesn't matter if it's a past client or a currently under agency prospective client or somebody we're trying to convert to a client. But if there was to be something catastrophic where we didn't have coverage, or we were displaced, or the brokerage, or we were all snowed in for a week or whatever, every single person in our CRM gets put on that smart plan, and they will get an email or they will get a text from within our system, just so we maintain top of mind, we maintain contact with them. But it's generic, so it doesn't have to, like, it can go to everybody, and it doesn't have anything that is like, oh, well, we're talking about stuff in January and we sent it in July. And that means that we can automate a single touch to hold us over for that week to 10 days until we can circle back around and we can figure out who needs a phone call, who needs an update. And it just holds that place. And so having a master touch plan or a master smart plan that can be automated at a click of a button is an amazing tool. And then you just have to let the people know that it's there and that that's what its intended use is. So next is calendars and rescheduling. You should have somebody who can go in and have access to your calendar and at least be able to take your next 7 days worth of activities, which means you have to have somewhere, somehow, that you track what you do and when you have your appointments and when you have your meetings. But they should be able to go in and for the next 3 days or next 7 days, we make sure that we basically clear 7 days at a time if this plan gets enacted, and get all of your stuff rescheduled. unless it's like a closing or an inspection or something like that, and have the ability to go in and basically reschedule your calendar and move things around and communicate with those specific clients. Like I said, we rebook in 7-day increments, and we just found that that's what works the best for our team. So if they're down for a week or if they get sick for a week, then I have the authority to go in and rebook all of their stuff for the following month, coordinating with each of their clients, but I will clear their calendar for 7 days. And then if they want to, they can go back and change and move things back. But I find that that's just a period of time that works for us. And then they're not stressed with, well, I think I'll be back tomorrow and I have stuff tomorrow. And then they wake up that morning and just like, nope, I'm not back yet. So there's that. If you use any booking software, so if you use Calendly or if you use Google Meet, where people can basically pick time on your calendar without you having to manually put it in yourself, you want to disable that. If you are out of commission, you don't want people trying to book meetings with you while you're not available. So you either need to be able to disable it from the main dashboard, or what I've taught my team, because we use Calendly, is if you have a calendar event where it's set as busy, Calendly was like, okay, well, they can't book. And so we will literally go in until I have a chance to reorganize the schedule, and we will just book them an all-day event, and we'll set it to busy. And then that basically overrides them not being able to be double booked. But if you use any kind of booking software, you've got to be able to disable the booking software so that you don't have new meetings created that you now have to reschedule. And then your vendor schedules. If you have vendor partners that you use religiously and somebody's coming in and rescheduling things for you, or will be scheduling things in the future, say you have a listing that goes under contract and now you have to schedule, I'm sorry, wrong, other way around. You have a buyer that goes under contract and you have to schedule an inspection. Your backfill, your emergency plan implementer has to know who to call. It has to be able to schedule that inspection, has to be able to, or provide that information to your clients and make sure the inspection got scheduled. Same thing with your closings with title, or if you're scheduling listing photos, or if you're scheduling staging, or, house cleaning. They have to know who you work with if they're supposed to be helping you get those things scheduled. Our transaction coordinator does a lot of our scheduling for our team. So, everything works fine as long as she's not incapacitated. If our transaction coordinator was not available for a week, then our agents would have to know, they have to go back to who is supposed to be called, who's supposed to be scheduled, and then how that gets handled. And so just having a simple list of who your vendors are so that can roll along in your absence is definitely recommended. And then marketing and lead generation. So this is all of your prospective clients in your top of mind. Again, it's a lot. I flat out say it's a lot. Our binder took 3 years. Our binder is about 20 pages of just notes and stuff. We try to keep it organized, but it didn't start that way. So figure out what's the most important to you, start with that one, fill that in, and then go back as you can and fill in the other ones. Don't feel like you have to do all 40 of these things at once. I'm just giving you highlights. So obviously having a point of contact and your current clients having continuity is important. But if you have time, or if you're augmenting, or if you're past that step in your emergency plan and your binder, then taking care of your prospective clients and staying top of lead would obviously be something you'd want to consider. But your marketing and your lead generation, do you have an event that's coming up that needs to be pushed or rescheduled or executed on your behalf or postponed? Do you have a monthly newsletter that goes out? Who creates that newsletter? Is it still going out without you? Is it still being facilitated? Do you mail cards? Do you call on birthdays? Like, what do your client touch look like? How are you interacting with prospective clients you haven't converted yet? And is there a way to make any of that still happen, or still automate, or things that can be sent and done on your behalf? So definitely want to think about active campaigns you have that are running. Lead nurturing, if you have incoming leads that get assigned round robin style or get assigned to you, how do you find them? Is there a follow-up? Do you have an 8x8 you normally put them on? is your 8x8 automatic? There are ways in Command for those to automatically be assigned. That is something I am learning, which is fun. New system for me to look at. But do you have anything like that they can put them on so that you're not missing out on basic nurturing of those leads until you are back in Command? So, and then content scheduling. If you work with a marketing assistant or a VA or a cyberbacker or anything like that, is there stuff that they can pre-schedule for you? So can you batch content further out than the week of? Can you get to where you have a 14 or 30-day backlog? And so there's things like holidays and engagement posts or this or that, so that you look like you're still there. You look like you're still posting on social media and you're still driving that nurture and that engagement, but you're not actively having to be responsible for it because you're not actually in the office right then. So there's that. Any questions about section 2 and maintaining your client continuity? I know it's a small group. I feel like I'm talking a whole bunch. So it's fine. That's just the nature of December. It's all good. I'm sure more questions will come as you guys start working through it and start looking at the networks, and I am here for the question. With that being said, is everybody aware that I created a Facebook group for the replays and the resources? Did you see that link? That will also be in the recap email that gets sent out with this one, but there is now a supporting productivity Facebook group. It operates very similar to like your script and role play groups, the pivot group, other groups like that. And so I have all the resources posted in the files. I post the replay so you can rewatch this either on YouTube or on Facebook. And then if you've got questions about the content, feel free to use that community like a discussion board and ask questions and get responses and share resources and things like that. But that is out there now. We're not live streaming into it yet, but maybe eventually. But it's there for resources and replays and community. With that being said, we're going to move on to section 3. And section 3 is the big one. How do you still get paid? How do you still make the money? And then even more reflective on if your incapacitation or your step back from the business becomes permanent, what happens then? So that's where this is going. First is compensation continuity. Do you have any compensation checks that haven't been deposited? That's number one. If something happens to you, have you closed a transaction? How does your brokerage handle your compensation? Do you guys have direct deposit? Do you have paper checks? Do you have to collect them from the office? What does that look like? And then at any given time, how does somebody know whether or not you've got money that hasn't been put in your account? So if you have earned money, you definitely want to make sure it ends up in your account. You don't want to leave it sitting on somebody's desk. So what does that look like? And then if you have closings that are going to happen while you're out, I mean, even technically some of the emergency plan stuff parallels with taking a vacation, because some of you need to take a vacation and have a plan for that. But if you have a closing while you're out, what happens with that compensation? Do you have to pick it up from title, or from the closing, from the attorney? Does it get sent to your office? Does it get direct deposited? We have all of these scenarios, and I'm the one that tracks all of the compensation. And I'm like, agents, did you get your check? Thank you for letting me know you got your check. But you want to make sure you get paid. So what does that look like? What is the plan to make sure that you're collecting all of your compensation? Not so much when you are solo agents, but if you operate in a team environment, if you are on commission splits, who knows those commission splits? Who's ordering your disbursement authorizations? Who's doing the paperwork to make sure the checks are being cut correctly? We charge an admin fee, and then we pay our transaction coordinator direct from closing. And so I have to make sure that gets ordered. We do a lot of agent to agent referral business. So we send out referral checks. I have to make sure that gets ordered. Who knows that information? Who's ordering that for you? Is that something that your brokerage can pick up the slack in if you are out and incapacitated, or at least facilitate in small interim doses? Is that something you need to discuss with them about, hey, this is going to be closing. In our case, if we don't have a disbursement authorization ordered that shows how the checks are split. Title generally sends one large check to our brokerage, and then the brokerage calls me and says, hey, we have no paperwork on file. What needs to happen with this check? And then we can work it from there. But what is your brokerage's policies on how those disbursements are authorized? If you're the rainmaker and you have other agents closing, how are your agents getting paid? We don't want a crisis on your part to impact their financial liability because they can't get paid. So just things to consider in the realm of compensation. If you pay yourself with payroll, if you pay your support or your leverage, do you pay that? Do you have a bookkeeper? Is it automated? Again, if something happens to you, do you want to be responsible for financially impacting your team members or your support staff? We'll make sure that they continue to get paid. So is there a way you can automate their payroll, or at least let somebody else know that that needs to be taken care of? What do you have that's a reoccurring expense? What do you have that's auto pay? What do you have that's invoice that you have to manually pay? You definitely don't want to be caught where it's renewal time and you didn't pay your renewal dues on your license because you were incapacitated, or you have an invoice with the office. The office should be understanding, but they kind of need to be notified if there's an outstanding invoice on that. What do you have that comes in and comes out that doesn't automatically pay itself that may need to be concerned? I mean, if you don't have automatic payment set up on, say, your email marketing platform like MailChimp, and you're relying on MailChimp to send out your newsletters every month, and then all of a sudden the account's not paid and now it's not sending newsletters, it has impact to your client care. It has impact to your business. So looking at what those are, or who's charging that, what's manual versus what's automatic. And then legal authority. Some things you can just trust people to do for you. Some things you probably should have a bookkeeper do for you, or you should have some kind of legal POA or authorized user. If you're having somebody take over with your finances, make sure you're protecting your accounts, while also, you know, if you're giving access, that it's not just like, here's my credit card and the names don't match, and now you have no idea, you come back and your accounts are gone. But it's the balance between making sure your business is still running, but also making sure that the authorized access, you're protected legally, and or it's somebody who already you trust or helps with your money, that is helping with your money. Again, that's why we normally go to our bookkeeper. So she handles a lot of this stuff. I know it exists. I know it happens. If he's out of town or out of country or on vacation and something needs to be charged or something needs to be handled, I can go to the bookkeeper and she can make sure that happens through legal and channels, and it's all documented and stuff like that, if he's not there to do it himself. So just having that process and that procedure in place for that. Next, moving to compliance and risk management. Back to your real estate license. In addition to having your license number written down, knowing what month it renews in or what year it renews in, like when does it expire? Again, because Murphy says it's going to expire when all of this chaos is happening, and you're like, okay, well, I needed to know that. Again, your MLS, knowing when your MLS dues or your so ours is PPAR, it's the Pikes Peak Association of Realtors. So if you're in an association, do you have dues? When does that roll over? When are your continuing education credits due? Again, things that people would need to know to help you out, that if you don't write down or you don't tell them, how are they going to know how many credit hours you've done or when those are due or what you were planning to take? Make it easier for somebody to help you maintain your license, maintain your compliance. Be familiar if there's any brokerage policies. So easiest thing is, obviously, if you need somebody to step in and help you with your clients and they're writing contracts, they have to be licensed. But does your brokerage have other policies, other rules, other things about who can or can't help you or what's going on with your staff? So you just kind of a quick talk with your brokerage about how certain things would be handled in emergency situations to make sure you're staying compliant legally in your state. And then MLS monitoring, again, we don't want to be fined. Our fines are ridiculous for the most minor of infractions. So who's helping make sure that your MLS doesn't find you, that you stay on top of that if you are having to change statuses or update things or, stay active, is who's helping you stay in compliance with your MLS. And then now there's legacy planning. So this is what happens when you don't go back to work. Do you have a plan? Have you even thought about what happens to your business if for some reason the sad consequences is you're not able to go back to work, or the happy consequences is you've decided to retire, or you've decided to switch careers, or you're done with real estate? What happens there? So this isn't so much in an emergency case or scenario, but it's longevity planning for your business. The very first thing is a post-emergency audit. So if your emergency plan has gone through an emergency and it's been tested, what worked, what didn't work, where were the holes, what needed to be updated? Because your plan should be updated after every emergency to make sure that everything is good and everything is taken care of. So there needs to be frequent and periodic audits of your plan as you move forward, and document lessons learned so that, in the military, we call them AARs, after action review. We've done the action. And so what worked well, that's a sustain. What do we want to continue doing because it worked well? What do we want to do differently because it didn't work well? And then what needs to be improved or implemented? So that's all kind of part of your audit after it. Succession planning. If your absence is extended indefinitely or you decide to retire, who gets your business? If your real estate is a business, you could theoretically sell your business. When you sell your business, what you're selling is your database. It's your client list. That's where all the money is. So who has the rights to your database? If something were to happen to you and you no longer were in real estate, who would you like that to go to? Who would you like to take over your business? Who would you like to, pass that along to? What does that look like? It's longevity planning for your business. What happens to if you have employees or 1099 contractors or teams or VAs, what happens to them? Are they kept on for a certain period of time and then they're released? Like what does that look like if you end up not being able to walk back into your office and go back to work? Because it doesn't just impact you, it impacts everybody who works for you within that business. And then your database, like I said, your database legacy, who gets your database? And then if you plan to sell or transition your business, what does that look like and when does that work? And at what point is that a consideration? So it's kind of your legacy planning. And then personal resilience. That's taking care of you. So have you identified caregivers? If something were to happen to you, who's going to help take care of you? Who's going to be the one that's coming to the hospital, or who's going to be the one that's coming sit with you, or who is your support network? Have you identified them? Have you told them that you would like for them to be part of your support network? In some instances, it might be wise to consider a healthcare directive for yourself. Kind of your living healthcare proxy or your living will. And as well as, have you considered health insurance? You guys are in an entrepreneurial self-employment business. Do you have health insurance? Do you need to invest in health insurance? Is your health insurance current? And then things like a savings plan. Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have long-term savings? Do you want to get to the point that you can have investments and retirement and stuff like that? That's all setting your longevity plan up. And it's kind of thrown in at the bottom of this, but if your business is working well and you get to the point that you can take your vacations and you can take time away and your business is there, then these are other considerations to make the most of your investment in your asset and your business. So, any questions on section 3? Say no. Okay. And I've got 5 minutes left. I'm right there. So last little bit will be quick. So the reality is you're trying to implement all of this, you're wanting to write down all of how these things work, and you're in a moving target. Not only is what you're trying to plan around moving and changing and adapting, you're also having to do things like lead in and showings and closings and all of that other stuff. So it's a work in progress. It's take a little bite, do a little piece, everything like that. But where you start is you really kind of need to build your hit by a bus binder. And I highly recommend that it is both physical and digital. Because the last thing you want to do is have it entirely digital, and for whatever reason it's not accessible, or the link doesn't work, or the file got moved, or the file got deleted, or the internet crashes, because then nothing happens. So having a physical and a digital is highly recommended. It should include all of these components that we talked about. When it's finally said and done, it should have the whole thing, but you just got to start somewhere. And it should be shared with your trusted individuals. This is key team members, key individuals should have a copy of it, or at least know where to get a copy of it. I totally threw some basic ideas, some basic things that me and my Rainmaker have talked about into ChatGPT, and use ChatGPT to basically build this whole class and all of these bullet points and all of these components. So leverage your technology. Use ChatGPT to help you build your email templates, or your scripts, or your vacation responder, or workflows for getting things done. You can literally tell it, I do this, and this. Write me a plan for somebody else to do my client care. And based on what you fed it, it will spit a plan out. It can do touch plans. It can even just organize your thoughts into a workflow manner. Like, okay, these are all the things I do. I just put it all in there and then give it to me in a logical order, and it will reorganize for you. So definitely utilize your ChatGPT. Even the basic free one is a lifesaver for those kinds of things. Become familiar with what tools in your CRM can help you automate communications and manage your tasks. The more you lean into the CRM, helping you maintain your notes, helping you maintain your tasks, helping you maintain what your next touch points are, the more seamless it is for somebody to come in and follow your CRM to execute what you have already set up and what you already know you wanted to do. And then cloud-based storage. Paper's good. I'm a Zennial. I love my paper. I love my printer. I mean, I've been reading off of notes that are printed out today. But having it somewhere on cloud-based storage, which helps for people who may not be able to walk into the office. Some of your trusted people may be remote. They may be halfway across the country. Having a lot of this in a digital form, in a digital space, and it makes it easier to organize, makes it easier to update, makes it easier to find what the latest revision was. So don't be afraid to embrace using the technology. And then if you still need it in paper copy, just print it off and put it down, put it in your binder. But use your cloud-based storage solutions to securely store your information and to organize your data. The emergency plan is going to make you have to find your A team. You've got to figure out who your trusted partners are, who your accountability partners are, who your business peers are that you can lean in and talk about and brainstorm with, and basically identify whether or not you're working with capacity talent and what they can do for you, or if there's a hole in your leverage, or what the next piece is that's going to make your life easier, that they're also going to know how to take on those jobs or that particular lane. I always say, if you're going to make a hire, sometimes the first hire, the transaction coordinator makes the most of the sense. If not, it's literally going to be your personal assistant or your admin that's going to do one or two specific tasks. So you're going to have to find your A team, because a plan's great, but if you have nobody to execute your plan, then the plan doesn't do anything. You've got to get it out of your brain, but somebody else has to be able to read it and do it. So there's that. Just a real quick note, and I'll send the slide deck as well on this, is your personal life can derail your business life, and your business life can derail your personal life. There is a lot of overlap, especially in this industry. So take time for your well-being, take time for your stress management, find a support network, work on your binder. But when you're working on your binder, map out where those two spheres overlap, so that you can identify risks, you can identify strengths, and then you can identify solutions to improve how the two of them interact together. So again, a lot of self-discovery in all of this. But because this mastermind is about implementation, and I'm a little bit over, so I'm gonna go real quick. I've given you an action plan. It's the first 6 steps. I'm not gonna read all of this. I'll send it to you, but we start with the 5 W's. Why is what type of event would trigger the emergency plan? That's the why. Why do you need the emergency plan? What event would make this happen? Who is going to execute your emergency plan? What is the emergency plan? Where is the binder that has the plan? That is the what. Where is it located? When is defining the amount of time between this has happened and the first round of communication, or the first piece of the plan needs to be executed and happening? What is that? 2 hours? Is that a day? Is that 2 days? What do you want your minimum response time for your client continuity or your notification of your people? What does that look like? And then the how, which is always the bonus W, is your actual emergency plan. That is going to be the how. So start working through the plan, kind of work through these 6 outlines. Like I said, all of this resources will be in your email, and will be on the Facebook group. And if you have any questions, or if you struggle with something, or if you have an aha, you can email me. You can share it with in the group. You can we can talk about it. I think I've talked to most all of you one-on-one in an email, in a Zoom, outside of these masterminds. So they're there, the resources are there, it's available. I appreciate all of you being here. I know there were multiple places you could be today. I don't know why my camera kept the top of my head off. There were multiple places you could be, so I appreciate you being here. And the biggest compliment I can get is if you get help, or you get, if you get things out of this, if any of this has helped you, share me with a friend. Let them know we exist. Invite them to the next mastermind. Let's grow the community and help other people out. And you know, I'm always here if you've got questions. Any last minute questions before I let you guys go?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you guys were taking lots of notes. I saw lots of brain spinning and lots of notes. So I appreciate you guys. And then in January, we will be kind of doing a software dive, kind of like how to use Google Forms, how to use Google Sheets, how to use Google Docs, and their Microsoft equivalents. I will probably set it up in the guise of a client event, because then we can be building out that, when how a form interacts with that, how the Google Sheet interacts with that, how the docs interact. So we can learn the software in relation to achieving a real estate task. But I think that's what January's content is going to be structured as. And that registration link will also be in the, I'm just going to call them the big R emails now. The big R email that goes out after everyone. It's the recap, the replay, the resources, and the registration. So, okay. You guys have a blessed holiday season. Merry Christmas from my house. And I will see you in January. Be safe, stay warm, and enjoy your holidays.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays
Same to you.
too.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye-bye.